One aspect of this tax bill that hasn't gotten as much attention, a couple of provisions that may hit the economy of Puerto Rico, even as the island struggles to recover fully from Hurricane Maria. Jeffrey Brown zeroes in on that.
That's because the bill treats Puerto Rico in some ways as a foreign entity, not a territory of the U.S. Specifically, it includes a higher tax rate on corporate income from intellectual property. Local officials warn that could drive out drug makers and other manufacturers. It comes as a third of Puerto Rico is still without power, and in a week when the government announced it will review all deaths in the aftermath of the hurricane. That after several independent investigations found the number of deaths was much higher than officially reported. Carlos Mercader is a representative on the mainland for Governor Ricardo Rossello. He joins me now. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
So start with the tax bill. Why do you think it would be such a blow? What are the implications?
Yes, Puerto Rico, it's a U.S. jurisdiction, and we were asking Congress to treat Puerto Rico under the current tax bill as a U.S. jurisdiction. The fact is that basically they're penalizing Puerto Rico with the taxes that they're imposing on foreign corporations or foreign territories. What we were saying is that every job in Puerto Rico is a U.S. job. It's an American job. And if the tax bill wanted to protect American jobs, they would have included Puerto Rico as a U.S. jurisdiction, and they wouldn't be penalizing those jobs in the island with the taxes that they just passed.
So far, we haven't seen any companies threaten to leave.
Well, everyone's saying that they're going to be looking at how is the implementation of this tax bill, and obviously, remember, we're going to be competing against foreign jurisdictions. We're not even competing within the U.S. We're competing against other foreign and countries which basically don't have the same set of rules, the same set of laws, the same set of regulations that Puerto Rico has.
But have any companies told you quietly that they'll leave? Or they may change? Yes?
They mentioned that they're analyzing their situation.
Separately, there is this disaster aid idea going through Congress right now. A lot of money for all the very recent disasters, with some of it earmarked for Puerto Rico, but not nearly as much as you've asked for.
No, well, yeah, and while we appreciate that Congress right now it has basically raised the amount of monies that are going to be included in that aid package, we're still saying that we need to tackle the Medicaid cliff that we're facing. Basically, it's that Puerto Rico, after February of 2018, will have no federal money to run its Medicaid program. And we need to basically find the monies in this supplemental aid package to cover that cliff that's we're going to be facing in February.
But those were the kind of problems that were pre-hurricane, right?
Yeah, but obviously those are heightened by the situation of the hurricane. And what we're asking is the same thing that happened in New Orleans after Katrina, in which the federal government covered for 24 months the federal and the state share on the Medicaid front.
Let me move to the question of the death count, because that just came up this week. Your governor acknowledged this week that the death toll may be higher than it has been acknowledged so far. This was after he kind of stuck to that number for a long time. What has changed, and why did the government stick to the number for so long?
Well, the government basically has a process of analyzing and verifying that all of the deaths that happen after a storm are directly or indirectly related to the storm. So, in a process of seeking transparency, what he has basically asked is that one thing, that they investigate each and every death that occurred after the storm, and then he commissioned an expert panel so that they go back and see that process that the government had when the storm happened, to make sure that that's the best process to really identify the real cause of death of a person that died after the storm. And this is very, very important. Life, it's much more important than numbers. So here, every death that happened after the storm needs to have the real information, what really happened.
But very briefly, I mean, those numbers could be off by hundreds, right? Do you have the efficiency, the funding for a real count now?
Yes, yes, no, and actually the process has always been open. Meaning that the governor has always recognized that since this was such a big catastrophe, obviously the number of deaths could be high and higher than the number that we have. The thing is that with the numbers that are out there right now, that's why he has asked for each and every death to be reinvestigated again, calling in doctors and just making sure that really the cause of death was really a natural cause of death or related to the storm, and then obviously calling in these experts so that they can chip into that government process.
All right, Carlos Mercader, thank you very much.
Thank you.